That's it, baby. What's up, social media world, social media family? It's Chris, your favorite host, your favorite coach, all things favorite. If you don't have a favorite, let it be me. Welcome to another edition of Conversations with Chris. I'm Chris, in case you missed it. And today, my special guest is the one and only DJ Jon Suarez. Give it up. Yeah, I know it feels
Standing
like
Standing
don't
ovation.
you love it? So,
Love
thanks for joining me today. You know, I like to talk to people that I find interesting, that are producing some magic in the world, and you are one of those people. So, man, from beats to boardrooms, we say, right? So
Boardrooms.
you're a young guy. Well, yeah, you're now the executive of your own company, right?
Yeah. I guess I've gone from like youngish to I guess my prime years right now. So I'm right. I guess I'm right in the middle. But yeah, hey, age is just a number, I guess, right? It's all mentality. I know some young guys that are doing great things. I know some older guys that are seasoned guys that are doing great things. So I kind of find myself like right in the middle for the most part.
Isn't it funny? And then the older we get, the more we realize we're never really going to grow up. So tell us about that journey, man. I mean, you started in the entertainment game and DJ game pretty young. You know, I know your mom's an entrepreneur as well. Tell us about that journey. I mean, what made you want to get into the world of music?
So it actually started when I was really young. My dad was in a very prominent salsa band in Puerto Rico. He was a backup singer. He was a producer for this guy's name is Frankie Ruiz.
Oh, of
And
course.
yeah, Frankie Ruiz is like he's a legend
Yeah.
in the salsa game. So my dad they were best friends. You know, growing up. May Frankie rest in peace. You know, he passed when I was young, but you know. I grew up around music. I grew up around the bongos. I grew up around salsa. I grew up around like all of those elements. So, you know, there's like newspaper articles when I was like a little baby, you know, playing in Tito Puente's like restaurant and things like that in New York City. So, you know, all those things, you know, just kind of, I guess, molded me, you know, growing up into just loving music and being surrounded by music. And yeah, so it just kind of became a part of my life ever since I was little.
That's awesome. Was it always, you were around all that music. Did you gravitate towards like live instruments singing, or was it right to turntables? You just like, man, I just love all music. I'm going to play everything.
I just had such a deep appreciation for music. I only played one instrument in my entire life, and I'm gonna get laughed at for this. But I was in like a school choir, and I just had to pick up an instrument. So I went and I found the most like obnoxious instrument I could ever find, and it was this big trombone. And I was like, I have no idea what to do with this thing, and I think I played it for like a year. But yeah, you know, I always had an appreciation for it. You know, I always, you know, loved, you know, every element of music growing up. But DJing really actually wasn't, you know, it wasn't on my radar until I got like a little deeper into like high school, early college years. DJing
Okay.
really wasn't in my radar until I really kind of expanded my music brain onto electronic music.
Yeah.
I started to, you know, I was at that age where I was going to concerts and music festivals and like all that stuff, you know what I mean? But I just fell in love with electronic music. And I had a lot of friends that were, you know, club promoters and things like that. And they were booking DJs and this, that, and the other thing. So I was just like, well, I'm definitely not going to make a Facebook group and like invite like all 3,000 of my friends to my, you know, my club night, you know, at so and so bar or whatever it is. Like that just seemed a little extreme for me. But I was like, no, why don't I start to learn how to DJ? And lucky enough, My sister, one of my sister's very good friends, her dad owned a DJ company called Absolute, which you're very familiar with.
That's right.
So I got to fundamentally, kind of learn how to DJ. I got to work in the private event space for a little while, and then I just kind of, ballooned into the club world, and I loved it ever since.
Yeah, you and I shared that we kind of started in a mobile world and then went into clubs. And
Mhm.
I think at the time, nightclub DJs, at least in the late 90s, I mean, I graduated high school in 98. And
Yeah.
nightclub DJs, there was like the you spun records. There was the hip hop guy. There was the EDM guy. There was like all the people that they were spinning specific kinds of music. And I think by starting off in the mobile world, you got launched into, hey man, we're playing shit from the 50s to today. And we're young guys. So like,
Yeah.
man, we didn't know anything about Lindy's and stuff, or at least I didn't. But I mean, did you find that kind of starting off, like getting into that mobile world, just kind of catapulted your music appreciation and knowledge?
The knowledge part for sure. Yeah, the knowledge, you can't just roll in there and just like play whatever you want. Like you really had to expand your brain on everything music related. And you also had to, in some ways understand music theories. You know what I mean? You can't just go in there and throw two songs together and think it's gonna sound good. So you really had to do your homework, in order to be a good DJ, be a good entertainer. In that space, you really had to, kind of, expand your brain a little bit. So it was so funny. I remember my first like interview, and I was sitting there, and he was like, "Well, give me three or four songs that you would play in like a '70s rock set." I'm like, "'70s what?" So little things like that. It's just something you have to kind of dig into a little bit. But yeah, it definitely played a big role into being able to get into the clubs and just be a more well versed DJ and have good variety to the things you're going to do. And then eventually producing music, that's also something you want to be able to dig into your music knowledge there as well.
Yeah, tell us about that. So you loved music, you appreciated music, you started spinning, man. You're making the people dance, and I think as a DJ, we kind of people like, what's your favorite kind of music? I mean, whatever makes the people dance. And
Right.
so talk about that transition from disc jockey, music player to music producer.
It kind of just it was something that I DJ'd so much. I was very active, over the past, decade or so, DJing a lot. So producing music, you kind of know in the business that like, hey, you could only be a DJ for so long if you really want to make it as a DJ, and if you want to tour, and if you want to play with the big guys, you have to also produce music, whether it's remixing, whether it's creating original songs that you have other DJs support, and that's kind of how your name grows and all of that stuff. It's a big network, just like any other business, right?
Sure.
So in that regard, I kind of knew like, hey, this is really what I wanted to do with life. So I kind of have to dig into the production side of it. I had to kind of make myself stand out from the crowd, and just being another local DJ that opens up a room for a big name, or just to be a guy that plays, at your local bar at, 10 o'clock. Like that was never really in the cards for me. I really wanted to do more than that. So when COVID happened, I basically had no choice. I was like, I got to sit in front of a computer and learn how to produce music. And then I did. I worked at it really, really hard for a long time. And lucky enough, the network that I was able to put together throughout my time of DJing, I was able to just start sending music out. Hey, take a listen to this. Hey, take a listen to that. Hey, what do you think about this? How can I get better from this? And I got great feedback. My first couple songs that I produced, they sucked, and then I eventually got better, just like anything, right? Like,
Yeah.
so you have to really, you have to really be a part of that journey, and learn and get feedback. That's the biggest thing. Get feedback from your peers. Don't worry about what they're gonna say in terms of like if it's good, if it's not good. Don't take it personal. Get feedback so you can
Yeah.
get better
Mm.
in what you do in the future. So I took all that in. I was able to make a handful of really successful records, and within that network, it would just became like getting from one guy to the next, and then next thing you know, Fetty Legrand is signing it to his record label, and little things like that. It kind of spurs out of the groundwork that you really put in.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is it really was like business goals for you that caused you to get into production. It wasn't kind of like this, hey man, I'm just loving the music. I'm feeling it. There's nothing out there that I will listen to. It was like, hey man, I understand the growth trajectory of this and I got to start doing this. And I love that you talked about asking, like masterminding. And I know like in the business world, one of the most valuable things that I offer my clients is I tell them, hey, you get a group of people together and say, you're exactly the type of person that I want this to work for, or that I want to appeal to, or I want to be my client, and help me design this thing. And in this case, it was music, and you went to other DJs and entertainers. And that was so smart of you. I think so many people are sensitive and attached to that outcome because you approached it as like a business thing. Maybe you didn't mind so much. You're like, hey, I want this to be a yes. Like if it sucks, let me know, rather than being so emotionally attached to it.
I think it's more people like, and especially, in our industry, like there's a lot of ego, you know what I mean? So it's just like everyone walks around thinking that like, oh, I don't need to, I'm better than this person. I don't need to hear feedback from them. You know what I mean? Or, I could do this and this, that, and the other. And in some ways, like, people have that false sense of confidence where, they'll only be as good as they think they are versus how good they can become if they just let their guard down a little bit and welcome in that constructive feedback, because you may be emotionally tied to it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be able to help you. So that's really, what you have to focus on, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah, it's brave, man. So you became one of the top guys with Absolute Entertainment. My buddy Kevin, and that's how I got into the business too. And now you're there was an opportunity to kind of transition that business from Long Island to Florida.
Yep.
And you said, I guess, and Absolute was the front runner, and you said, hey, I guess like a few of us, it's time to move from New York to Florida. I'm willing to take that on. So were you planning on coming down to Florida anyway, or did this like push you in that direction?
It kind of happened out of nowhere. It kind of happened out of nowhere. It was like a running joke for a second because, I've had ties to Florida my whole life.
Sure.
I have families down there, property down there, things like that. So my grandparents had a timeshare down there when I was a little kid, and we would go every year, and it was like my favorite part of the year. So, I've always had ties, to Florida. I always visited regularly. And it was funny, one of our primary accounts, Lessings Hospitality, they have a ton of venues up here in New York, but they also have down in Florida. They've broken some ground there as well. So when they opened up a beautiful facility in Port St. Lucie where my grandparents actually live, I kind of it was a rolling joke like, oh, hey, look, Port St. Lucie in Florida, let's see if, the Lessings will have us down there. And we got approached at an event with them, and they were like, hey, so, what are your thoughts on Florida? Would you guys like to come down with us? And like, Kevin was right next to me, and our jaws like kind of dropped. We were like, sold. And we like looked at each other, and he's like sending me on a flight the next morning. But
nice.
No, it was something that just kind of came about. I did the club thing for a long time. I traveled, I was able to really accomplish a lot of things that I wanted to on a personal level. And then when it, came time to really commit myself to, the lifestyle of serving and entertaining and things like that, there's no better way to do that than in the private event space. And, thank God. And we're so lucky and grateful to have the opportunities that we do with Absolute, because we've become such an amazing company, an amazing culture. We've grown immensely. So, we had the opportunity to go down there. I had, done a lot of work over the last few years to really move our company in the right direction. And, kudos to Kevin, because Kevin kind of gave me, the reins on like, hey, we got to move this thing forward. Like, what are your ideas? What are your thoughts? And we really work together, and we have such a great team around us as well, that were really supportive and that work really hard. So, it was a quick process. We went down there, we laid some groundwork, and, now we are full scale, in both areas. So it's a great thing.
Look at that. It is indeed. I mean, I noticed that in coming from New York and being involved in the entertainment industry, it was a little bit different in Florida. People take it. The wedding industry is different. Just things are different, and I'm just like, man, it's like we're not having parties the way that we did in New York. So it's nice to down here to be in a Lessings Hall with Absolute, and you're like, okay, this feels right. So tell us some stuff about. So now in a private event space, what makes a great party? I mean, what are the components of a great private event?
Oh, I mean, well, they always kind of say it like they have this like phrasing that's like built into what a great event is. And the first thing is good music. Like we're always at the top of the list. We always have like I would say the biggest responsibility in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Good food. You want to have a great food. And then obviously, you want to have a beautiful venue. But, for me, it really is all about the people. That's the number one thing. I've had small 50-person weddings in a backyard that were incredible and fun. And then I've had 300, 400 people weddings at, the grandest of grand venues that you can imagine. And it was just like, wow, this, for lack of a better word, sucks.
It's like an afternoon tea time. Yeah. And the difficult thing in the entertainment, like, I don't know if you feel this way, because I remember that time we worked together and, sometimes this is just the party that it needs to be. And like, I remember when I was younger, I'm like, oh, people aren't dancing. They're not partying. That means they're not having a good time. They're not having fun. Sometimes that is their good time. And they're like, man, you guys were amazing. Thank you so much. And I'm glad sometimes you got to read that crowd, man. You got to play some jazz instead of, the EDM or something. Right. And do you find it hard to disconnect yourself from that, or is it you've just been doing it so long that every party is unique?
So when I first started doing private events and doing weddings and things like that in particular, it was funny. I wanted every wedding, every party to be a banger. I wanted people flying out of their chairs and crowd surfing, and I wanted to just have a lot of energy. And whenever that didn't take place, it was like, wow, like I didn't do my job, or, the crowd wasn't good, or this, that, the other. And it took me a couple parties to kind of realize that always isn't the case, just like you kind of said. So when I had one event in particular where, when I tell you, nobody danced, not a soul in that place danced. And the music, we played all the music that they requested. We had it all put together. I had a great DJ on the event. I was actually the MC on it. And I was so like frightened. I was like, wow, like we didn't do it, like blah, blah, blah. It didn't work out. And when I tell you the line of people before, like they were just like lining up to say goodnight to the bride and groom, they lined up in front of the DJ booth to be like, guys, great music selection, had such a blast. Got to catch up with, people that I haven't seen in so long. And we just really enjoyed your mixing style and how you did this and how you did that and your song selections. And like, we had a great time. Thank you so much. Can I have a card? Can I have a card? Can I have a card? And I'm sitting there and like, my mind is like blown.
You can't even believe it.
I'm just like, what are we doing wrong here? But no, it's the big thing is it's not about you. And it was funny. I was on Sydney's pod last week, and we talked about this in a little detail. Out? Yeah, not yet. I think
I gotta check it out. That's cool.
Yeah, but it's so much not about you, and I think a lot of entertainers out there, they make it so much about themselves, where you kind of have to refocus that mindset, and you have to kind of say like, no, it's about your client. It's about the couple, the family, the friends, all the people that you are serving. And like, for me, it really like aligns with who I am as a person. Like I'm someone who, I like to serve people, I like to make them happy and make them dance, like enjoy themselves, things like that. Like, that type of stuff, means a lot to me. So, when you stop serving yourself and start serving others, that's when you'll really be able to, kind of scale and measure, your success and the impact that you make on others. So that's kind of how I view it.
Yeah, I love that. And that goes for every industry. It's just, when you look out, I think first we start looking out for, you kind of look out for yourself because you're in business for yourself. Then that evolution is you really become client and customer centric. I think the next evolution is kind of being employee centric, with organizations like, which now Kevin's biggest concern is making sure that you and the guys have everything that they need so that you can deliver an outstanding customer experience to people. And this industry is hard, and it is hard to remove yourself. And I think the most difficult things, I remember, sitting with brides and grooms. When you get brides and grooms that, first of all, they don't agree on everything, and they think that they have a different kind of crowd than you, then trust me, everybody, we all used to go to the tunnel. It's going to be crazy. It's like, yeah, and you're having a Sunday afternoon wedding. Well, let's see what grandma thinks about, Roger Sanchez, So it was just that I think that was kind of like the most challenging thing in that kind of, because you want to give them, it's almost like we know better for them than they do. And it's like, well, let's get to know you, see what kind of vibe it is. But then that magic that happens when you're there. And that's why this is something when people are like, oh, I'll just bring a boombox and play some music. There's special magic that happens with a live exchange of energy between an entertainment and the crowd. And I think that's the
100%.
biggest wild card, right?
Yeah.
So when people planning weddings, or private events, I mean, what's some serious advice that you'd have for them that probably nobody else is telling them? Like things that they should really know, but maybe nobody else is telling them this.
I don't know so much if others don't, mention it, but I really think you should trust the people you work with. That's like the number one thing. You go through the process specifically for weddings too, right? Like you put all that work into having one day, 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever it is, right? All that work that you're going to put in, and you do your research and you read your reviews and all of this stuff, and you find the vendor that makes the most sense for you, right? You go meet with that vendor, your meeting goes great, and you're just like, I love this. They have great reviews, they have a great reputation. Cool. Trust them to share feedback with you and really guide you throughout the process, because chances are it's your first wedding, right? Yeah, we'll do some remarriages and stuff like that, but in most cases, this is your first time around, and we've done hundreds to thousands of these. Like in my time, I've overseen close to 10,000 events, from the time that I started working with Absolute. We produce close to 1,500 events a year. And when I tell you, we are so battle tested to make sure that you guys can have an efficient and fun affair, trust your vendors. Don't overly micromanage them. I think it's, really important to just have that trust with the person that you're going to be putting in charge of your entertainment or your photography. All that stuff really plays a big part in it.
Yeah, that's true. It's I love, trust the people that you hired, kind of don't micromanage. And I mean, I'm the type of person that I like to find someone great and just hand it off to them and say, don't even bother me with this stuff. And I think there's another type of person that really, they want to hire somebody that they can control and manipulate. And sometimes it's difficult when you know kind of what's right for someone, and you have to say no to people that are going to do that. I mean, do you find yourself ever with someone that you say, hey, we're not a fit to work together, maybe it'd be better if you kind of go somewhere else, or you kind of get that feeling that it won't go well?
Yeah, in some cases, I always tell the couples, like, I don't want to like lay you out, or throw you under the bus, or just like make you, put you in a situation where you're not going to be successful on your wedding day, right? So I tell them, I'm like, allow me to give you feedback. Ultimately, we'll do whatever you want to do. But if it gets to a point where it's just a constant battle and a constant back and forth, and they want to do things their way, fine. It's really just more, in terms of the lead up and the amount of preparation and things that we'll have to do to serve this client. And then at the end of the day, it's just going to feel like it's not going to be enough anyway. Then at that point, it's way too much of a risk to take it on anyway. We exhaust all of our options to serve our clients. We have an amazing planning system on our website. We have incredible service people that will guide you throughout your whole process. But some people do make it hard, and it may just be the type of person they are, or whatever it is. But if I can see down the line that, like, hey, this client is not going to be a great fit, and ultimately we could do the best job we possibly could, but it's good, they will find something to nitpick, or they will find an issue to put out there. In some cases, we'll reduce that risk factor for sure.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I have a saying that I've used in my businesses for a long time. It's I'd rather turn you down now than let you down later. And it's just kind of like when you kind of feel that coming, and it's just and I like how you said, hey, well, you kind of asked the question, hey, is it okay for me to provide some feedback? Well, here's the deal, and that's such a good way to approach it, and for sure you are awesome at that. So let's talk music. So if we had to like think about different types of events, like, so we're talking about private events, all kinds of music. What are the top songs of all times of private events?
Oh man. I mean, you'd probably have to throw like Earth, Wind and Fire in there. You'd have to throw like Shout, the Uptown Funks of the world, like all that, like, all, I don't want to use the word cheesy, but just that commercially appropriate music that just everyone's going to know. Celebration by Kool and the Gang. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. I mean, I'll say this, every event is different though, so you don't always like to go off the basis of like, oh, this works every time, so I'm just going to use it. I think you have to, kind of read your crowd a little bit too. You know what I mean? If you're, doing a backyard party, obviously you're going to need to, for a high school graduation, chances are they're going to want to listen to all the new TikTok trendy songs that are out there. Right. And then if you're doing a retirement party, at a small, catering venue, all right, you're probably going to want to play like, a lot of 60s, 70s, a little bit of disco, things like So,
of course.
it's really just all about reading your crowd. If you've done private events long enough, you shouldn't have any issues for anything that gets put in front of you. It's funny. I always say a DJ's brain is like that picture in The Hangover of Alan counting cards in the movie The Hangover. Where he's just at the table and he's just sitting there, and like it's that meme of like all those equations going on. But DJs, our brains are libraries of tens of thousands of songs in every genre, every era. So we have to do a lot of work to to have that type of understanding of what's going to work for you musically, and simply just being able to read a crowd is a big thing.
Yeah, reading a crowd and song selection is huge. I think it's almost the most important thing. I mean, I've heard a lot of DJs that they can't mix to save their lives, but they play good music, and I've heard DJs that that crush it. They mix their asses off, but they're just playing what they want to play.
The vibes are weird,
yeah. So I think that's huge. And one of the things about mobile events is being able to the golf course over here, they had a band cancel, like, hey, can you DJ? And I'm like, well, I haven't DJed in 20 years, but I think I got all the shit I need. I just got to go and buy something. I wanted to see if my daughter wanted to learn. So she's 17. She's learning the DJ. It's great. So I bought a Pioneer DJ, right? And the music, I'm like, wow, I need to get all my music again. Oh, wow, there's streaming services now. I don't even need to download it on a hard drive. So I subscribed to BeatSource and I just had everything right there, boom, at my fingertips that easily. And it was so nice because now I'm at this place. There's nobody there. Nobody's dancing. Everyone's kind of hanging out at the tiki, but I had the creative license to go from reggae to country if I wanted. And then people were coming up and they're like, I never heard anything like that. And I'm like, oh, this is regular for us, but I know how it is in South Florida. Maybe it's not that common for you to hear stuff like that, but I think it was kind of the private parties that just, help you have that bandwidth, that range of, I'm gonna go from this to that and make it sound amazing.
Yeah, like I said, when you do private events, and especially if you work, in the capacity that we have, you really have to be on point with your knowledge. That's like one of the biggest things. So, it helps in all their ways. It's funny, a lot of DJs, like, they battle with each other about like, oh, I'm a club DJ. I'm too good to do private events. And then private event DJs like laugh at the club DJs. Oh, you're a club DJ, but I make this much money doing private events and you do that. It's like this big like stigma or like battle that they have with each other. But at the end of the day, being able to go out there and perform and entertain and being able to do it well with your music knowledge and all of that is good. So this just goes back to a lot of the egos that are in the business. But But starting with private events, it was a blessing for me because I really was able to, take grasp of music and knowledge and theory and really just make myself much more well versed in it.
Yeah, you get to learn about so many things and hear so much music and expose yourself to maybe things that you haven't even been exposed to. Like I had a long streak over there in Long Island for about a year where I did a lot of Haitian weddings.
Nice.
I had tenants and they booked me for their wedding, and so I learned all about like compa and zouk and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
we did a great job. And then all the friends kept hiring us and everything. And I would always joke with them. I'd be like, Serge, it's so funny that you and all your Haitian friends are booking us to DJ your parties. We're not Haitian. He's like, Chris, you play music just as good as the Haitian DJs, but you show up on time every time. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. So we laughed about it, but it's music is something, music just transcends, I think. And it's right. Even with, in Queens, man, with the Latin parties, I mean, I had to learn how to play all that stuff, people, even cumbia and vallenato and stuff, people don't even hear that stuff. I mean, you got a lot of DJs, their knowledge, they'll go like a couple of songs into a certain particular kind of music, but until you're there, you do a whole party, you're like, oh shoot, it's a good thing I have to play this kind of music the whole party. Can I do it? Yeah, I can do it. So I like the other day I was like playing in the house. I'm like, oh man, I feel like I'll never run out of music to play. I just keep, I started playing African music, mixing in there. It was so much fun.
Ethnic music, it's so important to really, make yourself, oh, look, Jay. Hey, Jay. What's up, Jay?
Speaking of great DJs, what's up, homie?
So yeah, with ethnic music, like you have to understand ethnic music, and when you're at a wedding, you have so much variety in the people that are there. You know what I mean? Yes, they may be, Chris Jones, the bride and groom may be Chris Jones and, Mary Berry. And at the end of the day, you really need to, look into their crowd. Maybe they have friends who are Spanish. Maybe they have, family members, whatever it may be, that like a certain style of music that married into, a different culture. Who knows? So it's one of those things. Music is fundamental. DJing is very fundamental. So long as you understand, all of the fundamentals of DJing, you can take music and, really, add it to your, add it to what you're going to put out there.
Yeah, and I think you said once you're removing yourself from that equation and kind of really taking making it about them, approaching it that way is going to be tremendously
right.
It's going to be tremendous. It's going to take you to another level. And I remember working with some people. I remember working with certain entertainment companies. And, we all work for everybody. And
I've only worked for Absolute. It's weird. It's really weird. It's like really, really weird. But
you got busy. But you're a super focused guy, and you stayed there. He gave you the opportunity. You took it and ran with it.
Yeah. It was a unique opportunity. It was a really unique thing because we've known a lot of people that have freelanced and kind of done their own thing, and that's really just more of a freedom thing. But no, it was just a really unique opportunity. I'm blessed to have had it where I just found a home right away, and from there, I was able to make a great living, and then eventually build something for myself and become a partner and expand the brand and everything into into another state, and it's just been a really good thing. So yeah, I'm definitely blessed to have had that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that you're talking about this. I'm just gonna put the Absolute DJs Florida link over there in the comments. So if you guys have any questions, you want to get in touch with Jon, well, you're easy to get in touch with, like myself. I mean, you're all over social media. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, stuff like that. So you're easy to get. I put the link down there. I make the links clickable, so it's real easy if you want to kind of see what Absolute's up to. And it's an exciting thing, man. I know and when are you going to be down here full time with us in Florida?
I feel like Florida has already kind of taken me in.
It's hard to go back, isn't it? When you're down here, I know you don't want to go back.
It's so hard, but no, I spend I started the year spending about almost 50% of my time down there, but it's slowly getting there. I was actually supposed to move full time back in September, but my building is still under construction. We had some delays, so I'm thinking by the end of November, you guys are probably stuck with me. So that's
great. That's awesome.
That's going to be something that that I'm looking forward to. So yeah.
Look out South Florida, and I was thinking about it, and talking about it's because it's such a weird thing with private events in Florida, where in New York, we kind of used to, you get involved with a catering hall like Lessing's, it's got 30 places or something, it's all catering hall centric. Like people go to catering halls for events. They recommend DJs. Man, down here, it's a little different than that. So I'm like, when John comes down here, we're going to have to do some private parties. We'll just get our own spaces and start doing private parties and invite people. And I think that'll be great promotion and marketing, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, with that too, I've got a great network down there. That's another reason why I wanted to go down. I have such great DJs, great live musicians. So yeah, I mean, we could always do stuff like that as well. But I've spent a lot of my time just kind of learning the market and learning how things are done down there. And yeah, it's definitely a little different, but it's nothing that is that foreign that we can't really adapt. But
it's still people that like that. Still people that want a good party, want a good time, and I think they're more open to the guidance too. I think New York,
they're so open to it. They almost like plead with you. They're just like, please tell us what to do.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, it's up to you.
Up here, they're like, no, you do it this way because I'm paying you a lot of money. So yeah, it's a little different down there. So it's great either way. Like I said, it's a blessing regardless. I'm happy to be down there. So it's all started off really good. We're looking good.
Man, we're happy to have you. We got to get out there and hit some golf balls around. But for sure, is there any parting words, any advice, anything that I'm not asking you that you want to send everybody off with, and then we'll let you go out there. You probably have an event tonight, right?
I do. I'm in the Hamptons tonight, so I'm up in New York for a little bit, but then I go back down to Florida next week. So. No, I mean, listen, with what you do, if you're having a wedding, like we spoke about a little earlier on, really connect with the vendors that are going to make your day, and, really trust them, and really be a part of the process. Like, we always really enjoy when, the couple is invested in the process and the journey to get themselves to their wedding day. That's the biggest thing. When I feel like a couple is too hands off, I'm just, it's not nearly as special. So, it's one of those things. Enjoy the planning, enjoy the people that you work with, and don't, as stressful as it could be, don't stress too much, because it's going to go by really fast, and all that stressing, all that anxiety, all that stuff that you can't really control all too much. It's gonna dampen, your wedding day, and that 4-hour reception goes by like that. So just try and enjoy every minute of it. That's what I tell all my couples. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's great advice. And I think we all said the same thing. I remember Sydney asked me that as well. And I was like, hey, listen, if planning is tough, there could be some challenges. Don't sweat it, man. Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy it as much as possible. And I think we share that. And the goal is just kind of enjoy every moment, enjoy life as you go through it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you for your time today, man. Thanks for
having me, dude.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
I'll see you down there in a little bit.
Yeah. I'll see. I mean, next week I'm flying up to Albany. I'm flying up to Albany on Tuesday, and then I'll be back on Friday. And then next week I'm going to Montana. Then I'm coming back. Then I'm going to Virginia. Then I'm going to Rochester. I'm going to be floating around a little bit until Thanksgiving, but I'll be around, man. And we'll
get together.
Stuff.
Cool.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. All right, John. Take care. Appreciate you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.